Hi everyone. So I'm just going to make a video for you guys real quick on the interview section for today. And it's Thursday, so we're focusing today on the interview and preparation. I'm hoping that you guys are, getting some good value from the community, and I hope that you are, making your changes on your CVs and also applying to roles, testing, and preparing for Friday to give some feedback. All right, so let's get into it. So the main question that you're gonna get when you're getting interviewed, and I've gotten this, always, almost every single interview I've ever had, I've gotten this question. It comes after, in the four before you get, to the interviews or to the technical rounds and the management rounds. You get this question a lot, and it's, how do you can they you talk a little bit, you do a little chat, and then they say, yeah, so tell us about yourself. No, what's your experience? What do you do? Blah blah blah. And what most people do is they basically answer in a way that is, telling their whole background, within like some people can, I've seen people, do this for 20, 30 minutes straight without, even interacting with the interviewer or the company. And I wouldn't recommend this. Some example of that would be, they ask you, hey, tell us about yourself. Thanks for coming. We're really interested. We want to get to know you a little bit, and they would go, yeah, so my name is this. I'm doing this role. And yeah, I've been having, 12 years of experience. I was doing these tasks, blah, 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 lists, all the tasks, lists all the roles, and lists everything basically that person can list. And most times I've done that before before I started, really understanding how to do these interviews properly. I've done that and I have gotten, bad results. And I'm sure that maybe if you're in that situation, you've had that as well. So what I'm proposing is to do it differently. And this is what I've done and what I've taught other clients to do is that you don't give away everything, right? It's like a, type of business. It's a business deal. You're in a business deal. You can't imagine you go into a business deal and the business guy asks, the owner of the company, they're like, yeah, so, what do you want to sell your company for? Or, tell me why should I buy the company? And, they're like, yeah, well, we have this, we have that, we have this thing, we have this thing, I've done this, 12 years of experience for this and that. You're making yourself, not desirable. Do you know what I mean? By just revealing too much and spitting everything out. How I recommend to do it is depending on the role and what your current interview is about, right? Maybe there's some email that you get beforehand, right? And they talk about something. We'll just go in the scenario that you get an interview invite, right? And they want you to interview for the role that you applied for. So if they would ask me that, in the beginning, I would just say some personal things first, right? So basically, yeah, my name is, Ismar. I'm 31 years old and I have, a family with, a couple kids. I live in this city, blah, blah, blah. Just so it's a, a personal type of conversation now. And when you don't do it too long, right? 1 or 2 minutes max, and, see how they react, that's also important because you're revealing to them what is important to you, right? What is your status, where you're at, how are you doing things. Don't even get into, the job stuff. Get into first, some personal things, just kind of figure out, if they're, kind of interested in you, you can sometimes sense it and feel it, but if not, then just try that. And then I would actually be like, yeah, so I had a lot of experience in these areas and these types of roles. What was And I've, since my experience is very well versed, if you're somebody who has a lot of experience, if not, then I'll talk about that in a second. But basically, you just make a quick summary and say, what would you like me to go more in depth about, actually, So how that would look like, right? I would say, my private thing, right? 31 years old, I'm living here in northern Germany, and I'm, having 3 kids and a couple of animals here on a small farm, and see how they react, just for a couple seconds. And then you can be like, yeah, and the reason, I applied for this role, I thought I would be a really good fit because of my background in blah, 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 right? And then I would say, I've done, many projects and in this kind of areas. What would you like me to, go more in depth about? So I don't, ramble on and talk about random stuff. And that actually shows them that you're, kind of paying attention, that you're saying, okay, tell me please what you guys are looking for, kind of, in a way. And then you're understanding, okay, this is what I'm going to get from these guys and this type of projects and company. Do I even want to continue interviewing with these people? Right? Because if you get all of that information on the first interview, you're so much ahead, and you're so much, more prepared for the next rounds, instead of just waiting, and hoping. You get as much information from them as you can on these interviews. It's there. You got to remember, they invited you to an interview, so that means that you are having the upper hand in this case right here. So don't, spit out everything and say, oh, that's what I did, this task. Try to, not reveal too much. Tell a little bit about your personal life, because they should know, that you're a human being and not just a software engineer or a, project manager. You're more than that. You're not just a role. You're a human being. And I think that, if you can communicate that, see how they react, and then formulate a quick summary about your, career there, and ask them, what would you like me to, go more in depth about? Not that we waste, any time. What are you guys looking for exactly? And in some cases, they may say, yeah, we can talk about that, but just go ahead more about, this role here. What was that about? And then you can, kind of feel where they want, more interest, or where they have, specific needs. That's how I would conduct these things. Okay. So if you have any questions about that, or you think, that's something that makes sense, would love some feedback. And like I said, if you have any interviews this week or next week, I'm wishing you, the best of luck. But you have to try to get as much information from them without, being, looking weird and asking, say 17 questions. That's also important, right? Because I've also done interviews where I've asked too many questions, and then it's like, oh, okay, it's too much. So we've got to find that fine balance, but that's what I would recommend. And I'll see you guys, in the community.